Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. Today, that's Critical Role. Excited to jump in, but first, how you doing, buddy? Oh, I don't even think I introduced us. I'm Will. That's Blake. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Hey, look at us.
Nailed it. I got it. I'm good, my friend. It is a cold, wintry, biting day. It's a Monday.
Very dreary.
Very dreary and dark.
Yeah.
How about you? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I feel like I've gotten like a lot done today. I've had my coffee, just kind of going boom, boom, boom down the list. So
Yeah.
feeling productive, feeling good so far.
Yeah,
And excited to do this as always.
Yeah, I'm a little stressed because I have my list too, and I feel like I still have like a bunch of stuff left on it. So, but the good news is after today, though, it's a very light week. So
Ooh, nice. Well,
so yeah.
Mondays, nobody likes Mondays anyway. So you're getting all of the gunk out of the way, and then it's just coast time. So
yeah, I like that.
Silver lining.
Yeah, and you and I already chatted earlier today talking about the Mighty Nine Two Shot. If you guys didn't see, starting this next Thursday, we're going to be chatting about that with a special guest. Actually, we won't spoil who it is, but a special guest. And other than that, Will and I have been meeting and chatting about some potential D&D content, maybe some. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, but the wheels are turning. If you guys like D&D and you're looking for more D&D, we might have some content for you guys in the near future.
Yeah, I like that. I like that tease. That way we're not we can't under deliver if that's all the tease is. So yeah.
Yeah. And you never hear of it again. So
that's right.
But anyway, campaign 3, Critical Role. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I figure don't have any other announcements, right? We can just jump into it, right? Or do you have anything else you want to share?
No, I'm good to go.
All right, cool. Well, if you haven't checked out our channel before, what we'd like to do is because it's long form content, we'd like to start out our discussion of the episode with a little recap action. It's where we talk about what happened on the episode, and we try to keep it to about 15 minutes long. And then we take that recap and we splice it out and put it as its own separate video. So if you're checking out that video and you want to see our full discussion, or you want to share your own thoughts and theories about the episode, we'd love for you to click the link in the comments below and come let us know. So, Will, why don't you hit us with the name of the episode?
I got you. This was episode 40 of Campaign 3, Compulsions.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say too. I'm just pulling my notes up real quick.
Everybody knew you were. I just wanted to say
it. All right, so episode 40 opens up with this continuation of this awesome cliffhanger from the previous episode, which, if you remember, Imogen was in her dream and she saw her mother, and the episode ended with her casting sending and reaching out to her mother, where she heard her mother's voice, Imogen, speaking back to her. So the episode opens up again, and they have this very vague, ambiguous dialogue where Imogen is basically like, are you okay? Like, where have you been? Like, can I see you? What's going on? And her mother, Liliana, is like, I'm really sorry for what you've had to go through, but I chose to leave because this is for the best. And it's best that you stay away from me and my destiny. You just need to run, which echoes the what we keep hearing in Imogen's dream of her mother's voice saying, Imogen, run. There's some dialogue with Marisha Ray's character, Ladna, and it's a bit of a disappointing conversation in the sense of, like, we don't know anything more about Imogen's mother other than that she is alive seemingly and is somewhere out there. So, having said that, they decide to go up on the deck and kind of share what's happened in Imogen's dream. And they basically come up to the top of the deck to see the chaos of this battle that happened. It was like, what the heck happened around here? Chetney in his elastic underwear, now back to his normal form, where in the previous episode, the flare of Rudis had forced him into this kind of crazy kill you rage in his werewolf form. So there's kind of this back and forth where Imogen shares what happened in her dream. And meanwhile, Chetney is also sharing about how it is Katha that grants him the gift that he has, and yet he's never had Ruidus cause him to have this itch that was uncontrollable before. I'm pretty sure, and William, you have to remind me, I'm pretty sure Fern does an insight check of some kind, but I don't remember the outcome of it. But there definitely was kind of like this, is this really the first time this has ever happened?
Yeah, I think, no, we don't know what deception or whatever was involved, but I think she didn't like learn anything from that insight check. Like it was just like, yeah, that's seems true to you type of thing.
Yeah. They also chat. There's some questions I think Chetney asks, does your mom know you have powers? They're kind of also putting together, okay, Imogen's having this thing with her mom. Chetney had this thing happen with Ruidus. We know Fern is Ruidus born. Who's next? Who's the next person to have like this weird Ruidus interaction? And there's even a joke of like, well, Orm has the the moon tattoo. Maybe it'll be Orm. But they actually do decide to go wake up Ashton and F.C.G to kind of let them know what's happened. And there's actually a really cool interaction between Ashton and Orm, where as things are kind of dying down and relaxing, Ashton's like, "Hey, Orm, are you good? Like, you okay?" And it's just kind of this really sweet friendship moment of everyone kind of thinks, or at least I do, Orm is kind of like the team's dad. Like he's like the most wholesome character.
Yeah.
And Ashton's kind of basically like, hey, just know like you don't have to like keep it all together. You can ask for help if you need to. So we kind of have a nice little, moment. And then the night ends. From there, they have a couple more days of travel. They actually pass by Bossaros again, and they can see the Death Wish run up in their skyship. And then the next morning, it's F.C.G's turn to roll in terms of what happens for the day.
Yeah.
And F.C.G's character says a prayer to the Changebringer for like, let me see a sign, and rolls the dice. I think it was a 3, and hears this rustling. He sticks his head out the window and sees this, I think Matt describes it as like a dog bird creature. And it is a cockatrice. In fact, there's like a dozen of them. And combat ensues. They all rush onto the deck. They begin fighting these cockatrices. And one of them actually like pecks or bites F.C.G. And Matt describes him like turning to rust and becoming immobile. And there is a special characteristic of these cockatrices where if you fail your, I don't know if it's a wisdom or a constitution saving throw, you actually become petrified and turn to stone. So that's happening to him. Combat ensues. It's pretty, fun and chaotic. I think Ashton like literally one-shots one of them. There is a moment in this combat where, like, as they're fighting, Laudna does her form of dread. And we talked about this in a previous episode, how it seemed like she might have a new patron, and that seems confirmed. She does a form of dread, and it was something like these bramble roots or like wood, like rotting wood coming out of like her body.
Yeah.
Very Sun Tree-esque, but very cool. Chetney summons Turmoil with the keyword done and is surprised with how lightweight it is. And F.C.G also has a turn where he has his whole turn, and then either he or Matt reminds him that he was actually turning to stone, and he was like, all right, never mind, pass. What actually gets really cool, though, is they realize that these cockatrices aren't swarming the ship to attack. They're actually running from something. And there's this cool moment where this dragon's head claws up the side of the ship, followed by a goat head and a lion head. It's a chimera that has come onto the ship, and the bigger battle ensues. There's some really cool moments in this combat. Imogen, seemingly using the 400 gold ruby that she got last session, summons this psionic red wispy creature, this construct of some kind or aberration, and it does it attacks the chimera and also does psychic damage. I think also there's a moment where Chetney also suffers psychic damage from it. So that happens. Orem continues to be like freaking awesome with how he describes his like physical combat. Fern actually fails her check from being petrified, but then remembers that her Fey ancestry gives her advantage, and she shrugs it off. And I think we even got a section where Mr. loads the poop into his poop gun and fires it at the chimera. All that to say, eventually Fern makes her way over to one of the ballista that are on the ship, fires it out to the chimera, and I think hits it with like a natural 20. It's like an insane amount of damage, like 40 or 50 points of damage, and she gets the how do you want to do this. Chimera is killed. It falls off the side of the ship, and that's basically what happens. They ask Imogen about this aberration that she has, and she's like, I don't really know where it came from. I don't really know how I summoned it, but all that to say, they decide to continue to travel until finally they reach the gloomed jungles below of the Ashenador, and that is where we take our break. So on
yeah,
to you, Will.
for the second half, we pick back up, and it's the next day of travel. And Laudna is the one who's rolling for today. And I don't remember exactly what she rolls. I want to say a 3. But Matt describes this storm rolling up on the ship, and Xandis says, we need to wait this out. So we're going to lose a half day's travel. But, enjoy. We're going to be chilling. So the party and Chetney basically start discussing the Gorginai and if, could these people be potentially allies, or, what can Chetney, learn from them? And he says that the Gorginai don't have to accept him, and that in the last group he was with, there was a definite pecking order, and he sort of got kicked out. When they're discussing all of this, he retells the story of how he was first bitten by a werewolf in the Savalier Wood, and he says, I was just living, surviving off the land, hunting, trapping, and there's some more insight checks that happen here, and as far as anyone can tell, he is once again telling the truth. A werewolf seemingly got trapped in one of his traps that he had laid out, and he didn't realize, and it bit him in the ensuing combat, killed the werewolf, and then this group that was hunting the werewolf come by and decide to give him a chance to, get his new gift under control. But they were like, we will come and take care of things if you can't. Basically letting him know that he isn't free to go around biting people and everything. So Chetney is like, yeah, so basically I just have to submit to whoever can teach me, and hopefully somebody can teach me here. The party then looks around where they are stationed currently as they're waiting out this storm, and they notice there's like this kind of abandoned in rubble tower, some sort of base that has been left to get overgrown by the jungle. And they're like, well, if we're sitting here anyway, how about we just go check this out? So they throw over the ladder, go down, and make their way into this abandoned tower. It's still a few hours from dusk, which the way they contact the Gorginai is to howl at dusk. So they decide to just kind of sit and chill and wait for dusk. Once it hits, Chetney transforms into a werewolf and lets out a howl. And there's about an hour that takes place here, and about I think halfway through, really it's not important, Chetney says, hey, everybody else, like, howl with me so we can be louder. And once that second party howl happens, they do hear howls back in return, but howls from like different locations. A little while passes, and they soon notice that something is approaching them. A cloaked humanoid type figure steps forward, and it's revealed that it's a were-tiger. And they're like, you're surrounded. Tell us why you called us before we end you, basically.
Right.
And Chet says that he seeks an audience with Diva Sheila, and this were-tiger says, you found her. Chetney says, hey, we were sent by Ajit from Jusar. I hail from Wildmount and was told that you guys could maybe help me with my condition. Diva Sheila then snaps, and more figures kind of emerge from the jungle around them. There is a were-panther, a were-boar, a were-bear, and more werewolf. Diva then asks Chetney to like prove it, like prove you're one of us. And so Chetney transforms, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the rest of them, they're not werewolves. It's just me." And Diva Sheila's like, "Okay, well, can you guys keep up in the jungle in this weather at night?" And they're like, maybe." And so basically, various members of Bell's Hells jump on various members of this where like they're not all wolves, but the wares, I
Right.
guess, jumps on
Yeah.
their backs to travel through the jungle. Imogen lets Xandis know with a telepathic message
Yeah.
like what's going on and to wait for them. But then this whole group heads out seemingly back to Diva Sheila's and the Gorginai's camp. And they're taking like a zigzaggy, darty path through the jungle to kind of hide the location a bit from Bell's Hells. They ultimately arrive and they all drop their were forms. And we find out that the were boar is a man named Uther, a human man in his 50s. The panther is Manad, a scrawny gray orc. One of the werewolves becomes like a green dragonborn. And finally, Diva Sheila turns into a human woman in her late 40s. She says, "Welcome to Barnock." Uh, and this area is basically just a collection of jungle tree houses with like rope ladders and rope bridges. There's gardens, and it's basically just this kind of hidden commune within the jungle. And Manad says, "If you reveal this location to anybody, we will hunt you down and kill you." And Diva Sheila's like, "Yep. And by the way, my name is Analine. Diva Sheila is just a
Yeah.
password of trust that we use, and also a name that I once had." Chet introduces, the group as Bell's Hells and says, "I'm here to learn." Um, he also lets them know about his recent interactions with Ruidus and asks if that's something that they deal with as well. And Anna says that that's like a particular itch, but an itch all the same. And it's grown in recent times with the flares and I want to call it the eclipse, but that's not the right word. The
Solstice.
solstice. Thank you. With the solstice
Yeah.
approaching, the itch is getting stronger, but it's something that you can master. Um, and she's like, "I can tell you've actually have already had some experience with hemocraft." And she's like, "But there's still much to learn over the coming weeks." And Chetney's like, "Well, I don't really have
Yeah.
weeks. Is there a quick seminar you can give me?"
Yeah.
And she's basically like, "This is a lifelong discipline, and it's going to take a lot of time and focus to master." She does say that most people here aren't masters of hemocraft, though. They're just individuals looking for protection from society and a basic means of like living a somewhat normal life while keeping their condition at bay. Um, they find out a bit more about the Gorginai and that they used to be nomads, but the Court of the Lambent Path made this agreement with them so they could occasionally settle and take jobs. They also find out that they basically embrace the guidance of Sayadon, which is like this human beast, powerful spirit that guards the jungle. It's a protector of both predator and prey, with its goal being to just maintain that natural balance. And she is a champion of the Wild Mother. Bell's Hells then are introduced to this gnomish man named Tarad, and he basically feeds them and tells them a bit more about the community, how people come and go, and some have to be put down, because once somebody loses control, there's basically no coming back. He says there's been outbreaks in the past, and the Gorgini are basically dedicated to preventing that from happening again. And he's like, they use meditation, therapy. We also chain people to this tree if they're not strong enough to control themselves. And Annaline then jumps back in and is like, "All right, I think we have something that could maybe help you that we'll try in the morning. We're going to go to the temple of Sayadon, and if you're lucky, Sayadon will meet with you, and you will either be excised of this itch or you will be excised." He's like, "You will be challenged and judged. And the rest of the party is welcome to go with you, but they may or may not be welcomed like into this challenge, as it were. It depends on Sayadon." And so the party's like, "Okay, well, sounds like a plan." And Annaline's like, "We'll be heading out tomorrow, so just make camp here, but like don't get cold because the journey's going to be rough tomorrow. So the party then makes camp for the night, and that's essentially where the episode ends. Once again, episode 40 of Campaign 3, Compulsions.
All right. And if you're checking out just the recap, click the link to see our full discussion. And again, we want to know what you think about the episode. All right, Will, what'd you think of the episode, my friend?
I liked it, man, as always. I'm so interested and excited to see about this Sidon trial. And so I'm kind of like, because we got to wait like a month basically for the next episode of Campaign 3. But I liked it. Basically kind of a continuation of last week. We're sort of in a more chill, lull like we've talked about in past episodes. We got some more downtime, some one-on-one, some great one-on-one convos that I really enjoyed. Yeah. And then it was just really cool to meet this commune of wares. So interesting episode. I'm just sad that I have to wait so long to get this next enticing bit that we learned about.
Totally, yeah. It really is like a month. Let's see. 1, 2, a month. 1, 2, 3, 3 weeks. Well, a month from last Thursday. Yeah, right. Sag.
But yeah, what about you?
I'd give this episode. It was okay. That's what I'll say.
The okay.
I give it it was just okay. In the sense of total bias of waiting a month. I think looking back, like dropping a bucket episode 40, I'm gonna be like, oh, that was a great episode. Like if someone was to rewatch Campaign 3, they'd watch episode 40 and be like, yeah, that was a fun ep. But like me, like I've built up like the storyline so much in my own head that I was like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen, man? Are they gonna go to Ruidus tomorrow? Are they going to episode? Are they getting in the Spelljammer episode 40? Just thinking about like what's going to be the cliffhanger for the next 4 weeks, and we didn't get that, and which I can't fault them. And they're just playing D&D, having fun. But definitely it caused me to walk away being like, man, nothing really happened. I mean, stuff did happen. A lot of scene setting happened. But I'm just bummed I got to wait 4 weeks. And so, and bro, I totally forgot in my half of the recap, Orum's message to Dorian totally makes me wonder about, could we get a Dorian return? But in general, though, we got to wait a month till we even get the message back. So anyway.
But yeah, that's all fair. I definitely was, not that I expected really to just be firing off on all cylinders with Imogen's mom, because that was like the big cliffhanger from last week that we were wondering like, where's that going to lead, if anything, which it led to about where I expected it to. But like you said, we didn't really get any of the like super juicy like boom big drops because her mom's back in the picture, which that's coming eventually. But I definitely can understand some of the expectations kind of being like, we didn't, none of that.
Yeah. And her mom, there was so much buildup with her mom that it was a little disappointing that we didn't get more there. And like even Laura Bailey seemed a little disappointed until Matt cast sending back to her to kind of bow tie the conversation just a little bit more. Which I don't know if Matt maybe wasn't ready, wasn't expecting the sending to her mom and was kind of like, oh, or which, knowing Matt, he's so over prepared. It's probably just not the right time, I guess, for that storyline to go any farther. But definitely me personally, after so much happening for Imogen and her backstory, it was kind of like, oh man, like it feels like there's so much more to say. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It also just makes sense, I feel like, from Liliana's character to be that way, though. Like she ran away for a reason. Like she's not just gonna, expel everything in this moment from having gotten a message finally. But all that being said, I hear your criticisms, for lack of a better word, and those are completely fair. Because it was kind of just a chiller ep, So
right.
I forgot where I was going with this when I started this, but anyway. Point is, um, you know,
So what do you think's going on with old Liliana?
uh,
Is it possible she works with Adahan?
I think so. I I think it's possible. I'm not like I don't I wouldn't call myself fully on board that train yet. Like for my money, I don't know if I'm ready to say that, but I definitely think it's possible because it seems like that's this is something we talked about. Regardless of whether Adahan is a metaphor for the storm and that being like, that memory we talked about last episode, not going to get into that again. But kind of regardless of that, it's clear that Adahan is after Rude is born people, seemingly, or is at least interested in them, if not after them. Because clearly, in that fight with Bell's Hells, she wasn't really even trying to kill Imogen necessarily. She was trying to like provoke her to let go.
Right.
And as we know, her mother is also Rude is born. Um, clearly has similar gifts, if not like the exact same. We don't really know how this works. So I think it would make sense that Odahan was after Liliana, and we know Liliana ran to try to protect her family. But who's to say that Odahan didn't catch up with her eventually, and maybe she's either being used in some form or fashion against her will, or maybe she's even doing it willingly, but just doesn't want this life for her daughter.
Yeah.
So that was a bit long winded, but I definitely think it's possible. Like, I don't know. Where do you kind of land on this?
Yeah, no, I was just looking for she says, "I'm sorry it's hard. I'm sorry for cursing you with this burden. I left because I was a danger. I couldn't stay without knowing what I am. I love you more than ever you know. That's why you have to run away from me. Imogen, run as far as you can." And then there was one other line she said. Let's see. Um I thought she said something about her destiny. Oh, yeah. You can't see me because you need to stay safe. And the further from me you are, the safer you'll be. Far from me in this destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So it does seem like Liliana has sort of accepted. I don't really prescribe to the like she's a prisoner of Adahan, but I could see them working together in some aspect, and like maybe she's just accepted. Yeah, this is what I'm destined for, and the most I can do is like protect the blowback towards my family.
Yeah. Bless you.
Thank you, sir.
But I mean, little does she know that like destiny has arrived all the same. Like,
Right.
her and Imogen didn't really get to talk about it, but I think if they did, her mom would realize that she still like she has the same gifts, which who maybe her mom did know before she left. I don't know like what age or what abilities Imogen might have like shown little sparks of while the mom was still around. So that's one thing I'm interested to know is if she has any idea that Imogen's like her in those ways. Um, but one thing I thought was really cool that we got, I'm gonna say hard confirmation of based on the way she was speaking, is that all these dreams about like run, it was never run from the storm, it was run from me.
Yeah, right. It does seem like that.
That's
Well,
what I
and
take at least.
maybe both though. Maybe her mother is the storm.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily literally, but we've talked about like Adahan being the metaphor for the storm. Maybe it's Liliana, or maybe it's Liliana as part of this whole.
Yeah, this destiny, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So yeah, not that like she wasn't referring to the storm, but that like she was referring to herself at least as well.
Yeah. Right.
Which I'm dense, but throughout this campaign so far, I had never really considered it that way. I'd always considered it like run from this danger, not run from me.
Yeah. No, yeah. And I'm still really liking the theory that Adahan maybe came to her town at some point and like recruited Liliana. Which I know, I don't know where you felt on this, because I think there's maybe a conversation like with the gang about like, oh, maybe has it been your mother like speaking to you then or something? But I still like the idea that like the Imogen run isn't like her mom actively in her dreams, because I think that was the comment. Like, maybe your mom's been there, but I like the theory that Adahan came to her town and like her mom, it's like a regressed memory of her mom saying to run or something. But I mean, either's fine. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I still like that too. Yeah, there's a lot of what if still here. I mean, we were just talking about if they were working together. I still think it's possible that maybe, obviously that they weren't as well, and in that case, has she just been living on the run for 20 years, and what's she been up to? That seems less likely to me, but I still think it's possible. And in that scenario, I wonder if she's, or even in either case, I guess, I wonder if she knows the Nightmare King or has had any interactions with, the Unseelie Court, or, just Surplus Assembly. There we go. Which
she definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't really have anywhere like concrete to lead with what I'm saying here, but these are just all like the questions I've been.
She definitely seems kind of. I mean, we're like so like digging into like 8 words that she spoke, but it did seem kind of resigned to her fate though, and you can kind of trace a little bit of. We know she was at EOS, part of this study,
right?
And so I guess at some point maybe that spiraled out to maybe getting noticed or getting seen and being recruited by Adahan or becoming part of something. I don't know, but wherever she is now, it seems like she has. This is the destiny that I'm part of, and the best thing is for Imogen and everyone I love to stay away from me.
That's a good point. You just made me realize, though, is that study that could potentially be how Adahan found out about her,
right?
Which would be interesting, because that would potentially mean that she didn't run from Adahan. She just ran because she knew like stuff was going on, and then later Adahan came into the picture. Because I mean, anything could be possible at this point. We're just kind of firing in the dark, but there doesn't seem to be a way that we know of that like Adahan can like sense Ruidus Borns, or just like, so that study would make sense for how she, one, maybe originally found Liliana, but two, maybe led her not in the same time period, but ultimately led her to the Loomis twins because they were the ones like inquiring about that study and stuff. So I don't know, some nice connective tissue potentially there. But yeah, I'm rambling about this now, but
I do wonder if that professor is dead or alive, though.
I feel like he's got to be dead unless he's like working with her, with Adahan.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I mean, yeah,
why was he studying? I mean, it could be studying it for purely scholastic reasons, but maybe that person was studying it because they were trying to like do whatever Adahan's doing now.
Or maybe he's like in hiding with the Grim Verity. Wasn't the Grim Verity like the
the like secret society type thing, the scholars.
But what was it with the Loomis twins? They had like decided like to join or something, or like they joined something.
Did join, or were considering it.
But didn't like someone, like maybe the guy at the manor for the the heist, didn't the guy who was meeting them like suggest that like joining the Grim Verity had like implications on, like almost like they dug too deep or something? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That implication was made. I don't know if that was like directly tied to the Verity or not. It might have been. I just don't remember.
Well, that's kind of where sorry.
No. I think they just dug too deep into this.
Okay.
Into this Ruidus stuff.
Because isn't the guy we met in Bossaris, who wasn't he part of the Grim Verity?
The guy in Bossaris
who was hiding like in like the hideout, like under the ground
with Fern's mom.
Yeah,
I think so. I think he was. Which
okay.
Yeah, because I think the Grim Verity is also like the Loomis twins. They were looking into this, right? So that put a target on all their backs. Right. I might be misremembering, but at least that's making sense to me right now.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just Googling Grim Verity because oh, yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. This is great. So Astani was the guy from the heist who told us.
Okay.
He was a member, but had left a long time ago. And then Hondir was the guy in Bassaras
Right.
who tells them that half of the Grim Verity has been killed in the past decade by the Grey Assassins, which we know to be Adahan.
Right.
So Adahan's been killing and has killed over half, including the Loomis twins. Dude, we're connecting it all, man. We're bringing it all together, you know? And let's see what else it says.
Which has to be because they're looking into this, right? I mean,
and confirmed that Khadija Sumal's study that included Liliana Tumult was a study run by Grim Verity members.
Okay. So I'm guessing he's probably dead, or at least on the list then, the scientist.
Yeah. Very interesting. Anyway, okay. Bro, that is some interesting details. So maybe Adahan, she's trying to kill off the Grim Verity. She finds this study and is like, hold up, I don't want you guys to know this. Starts chopping people in half and then takes Liliana as a... Maybe Liliana was the first. Maybe Liliana was the first she recruited of the Ruidusborn to join her crew.
Okay, I could see her... I thought you were going to say like the first ever, which I don't think is the case. But the first she recruited, I could see that.
Right. Assuming that she has in the last decade been recruiting, just like she tried to get Imogen to join her and like accept, assuming that she has been slowly, you know, because we know the storm, Imogen has the dream of seeing the shadowy figure where two more jump out and then two more.
Yeah.
So it's this crew is multiplying. And so maybe Adahan, maybe Liliana was the first she recruited, and since then they've recruited several more.
Yeah. What for? What is the plan here? What does she want?
Yeah.
You know,
the numbers, what do they mean?
4, 8, 15, 16. Yeah, I think we're on the right track here at least.
You guys will have to let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
for
what do y'all
what
think?
you guys are thinking. I feel like there's always someone like Ness or someone else who like hits the absolute banger of like a theory, and then you're like, whoa. We need Detective Ness. We need you.
That's right.
Give us the answer.
But so to wrap it all the way back to kind of where we started here, for your money, do you think the mom, regardless of intent or, you know, being coerced, do you think she's working with Adahan?
Yes. I think she's a bad guy. Not, I think morally gray, bad guy. I think she's helping build the Death Star, whatever that would mean. And she urged Imogen to leave her alone because she's working with Adahan and she just doesn't want Adahan to know that they've been in contact.
Oh, and she does know that Imogen has the gifts like her, and so she knows that they would want her.
Yeah.
Now that's interesting. If the mom is like not the big bad of the campaign, but like Adahan works for Liliana, that would be interesting.
I don't know.
But if that were the case, Adahan must not know, which would make sense if Liliana is trying to keep Imogen safe. But because, you know, you would think that Liliana would not be given the okay for her to be murdered by, or I mean, I guess again, like we were saying, Adahan wasn't really necessarily trying to murder Imogen, but I don't know.
She was trying to kill Imogen. You know, think about this. If you're Adahan, you stumble across Liliana, this Ruidusborn, and notice also not all Ruidusborn are born equal. Fern is very clearly different than Imogen in terms of like the well of power that they have. So you're Adahan, you come across this woman who's part of a study who has these psionic incredible powers, and then you find out there's another one, her daughter. I think absolutely what we said earlier, she's trying to recruit Imogen, maybe for even more nefarious purposes that she ever intended for Liliana. You know, it's like, why do I need you? I got the younger one at home. You know, whatever, whatever that line is.
Yeah. There's so many things I want to like reach out and grab, but like I still feel like I'm just shooting in the dark based on because we don't really know what their goal is with Ruidus. Like
Yeah.
maybe none of them are in charge, and the freaking entities on Ruidus, whoever or however many there are, maybe are. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't even know why I'm just randomly spouting right now, but
Yeah, I don't know. I
I
mean,
want to know who's in charge, who's pulling the strings here, because there's so many powerful entities. Because I mean, everything we just talked about aside, we have the crazy people in the Unseelie Court who have like 100 names that are involved. The Cerberus Assembly's involved. Like they're definitely not all in this together. Those are all entities that are definitely looking out for number one. So it's like, do they all just have their own plans, or is Ruidus one way or another like manipulating the strings and just bringing all these people together to serve its own
I think
purpose?
what's difficult is so much of the next like story development of each of these organizations directly relates to the Apogee solstice that's coming, which I again we knew it was a month away, and then Matt said like, oh yeah, it's still a few weeks, and it made me think of your joke about the I don't know if it was like Traveler Con or
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
but how it like kept being like, oh, it's still a few weeks. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so we're having that happen a little bit, but so much of each of those organizations seemingly next story point, it feels like revolves around the solstice. I think about the Nightmare King, the Unseelie Court, you coming back for the Moontide Crown, what Adahan and the Paragon's Call have been prepping for. And there's a lot happening. It kind of makes me wonder how Matt will fit it all in, so to speak, at that Apogee Solstice event. Because we're building to this climactic style event, right? And so I'm just very curious as to like what even could happen, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like just in terms of the narrative and the story that's being told, there will be like an encounter, for lack of better words, during the event. So I think there will be, but honestly, there might not even be like something like Bell's Hells might just be with themselves wherever they happen to be that day. And it's just like, well, I don't know where, like, because there's several entities out in the world taking advantage of this event, right? So even if there is an encounter with Odahan, let's say, and let's just say they're successful, everything could still hit the fan because of one of these other parties that's trying to use this for something, right?
Yeah, like Katha blows up and they're like, oh, that's probably bad.
Yikes.
So,
This is, I don't want to get too sidetracked on this right now. And the answer to this might already be, well, this is just going to sidetrack us, I think. I'll say what I was thinking, but we don't really need to spend time on it. I
okay.
wonder if what's going on in this Mighty Nine two shot is it all could it all be connected to the solstice in any way?
I think knowing nothing about the Mighty Nine, that and not even really knowing how to pronounce the names in the like promotion for it, or even what is happening, to me, this because Calamity was this worldwide event that took place in a multitude of areas. Vasselheim, Avalier, Wildmount, in the sense of the what's his name's throne area, evil castle being built. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
butchering it.
Yeah.
But point being, we're having another seemingly world defining event. It feels like this Mighty Nine two shot is going to be something simultaneously happening that may not even get resolved in this two shot. I don't know.
Yeah. And like I said, maybe this information is out there and, we're just throwing spaghetti at the wall for no reason. But I don't think they've said when it takes place. Now, it's possible because we're like several years, the end of campaign 2 compared to where campaign 3 picks up, I think is several years later. So for all I know, maybe this takes place several years ago in terms of the current timeline of C3. And
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
it might, not that it couldn't have implications even being several years ago. Or maybe it's taking place current day. I do have some guesses as to what the story might be for that two shot, but I don't want to. We can talk. We're going to be talking about those episodes, so we can save it for then. Um, but just wanted to throw that out there instead of like being like, oh, and then just not saying it because that would be annoying.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. We had a really awesome chat between Ashton and Orem.
Yes.
Ashton, like every time I'm like, dude, Ashton, you're my favorite. There's like another episode where I'm like,
I feel like you change every episode. A lot is my favorite.
Dude, they're just all their characters are all so freaking likable,
Yeah,
man.
you're totally fair.
There is no weak link. Like anytime someone speaks, I'm like, love your character.
Yeah.
But Ashton having that sort of reverse dad moment on Orem was just, and also I liked too. Now that we've kind of gotten out there of Ashton being like in constant like chronic pain, like when it gets referenced, it kind of gives like a more it's kind of sobering, I guess. But
Yeah.
they just had a really nice, back and forth that I liked.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up too. I love that moment for several reasons. Just because those character moments are probably my favorite thing about Critical Role is those about the story. About just those awesome deep RP moments. Um, but I loved it especially because earlier I'm pretty sure it was the same episode where they all were like raising their hands based on like who amongst us could like just turn on everybody and kill them, and like everyone raises their hands but Orem, which is true, and it's funny because he's like the sane dad of the group. But I just love that Ashton, and like you said, is suffering from this chronic pain all the time that he Eagle Eye viewers probably knew it, but like that was a lot of surprise to all of us when he was like, "I'm always in pain." Um, anyway, to get to the point, is that Ashton is keenly aware of suffering in silence, and I think he recognized that in Orem being like, we're all the Kraos crew, and Orem's just like, just sitting there. I love that he used that as his like excuse to come talk to him because he's like, I know that even though you're the good one, you're not always good, so like feel free to talk to me.
Will, you beautiful SOB. I did not put that together. And that was so well said. That's I love that. That's awesome for sure.
So yeah, I just love that Taliesin had like the wherewithal to recognize that, and of course, because of who Ashton is, would be the one to make sure and like reach out to him.
And we got some really cool I can't remember what he said, but he said something like, I've been thinking a lot lately, like kind of reflecting a lot. And he said, I've been thinking about things that I didn't think I'd think about like ever again. Like, what's going on, do you think there?
I think there's probably layers to that, but the first thing my mind went to was he has a group again, and I think probably after what happened to him with the nobodies, he probably kind of wrote off everyone, ever having a family again. So I feel like those are kind of the thoughts, especially coming off having just potentially lost Laudna. So that's where my mind went at first, was that
That's great.
But what about you? Did that?
No, yeah, it's what mine goes to is how incredibly talented these people are, because you think about like the loner been burned before, like kind of half cynical. I don't know. It just feels like there's so many stereotypical cliche traps in writing that character. And I just find myself constantly like pleased by how unique Ashton's character is, and how like some of those, it speaks to like the complexity, I guess, of him, just people in general, that like just because you've had these experiences doesn't mean like now you are this trope like character.
Right.
But he's had these experiences that many of us can relate with, and yet his character is so unique and complicated. I don't know, I just every time Taliesin, you can tell he's put thoughtfulness into his character. Like I'm just constantly surprised isn't like really fully the word, because I'm not like but like I'm just like, it's like I'm getting to experience the outcome of his good writing for his own character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. And it actually got me thinking to how you pointed out several episodes ago now, how he and Laudna had that moment in the sandstorm. And it seems like, which this was surprising to me, but kind of Ashton is shaping up to be like the emotional core of the group,
Right.
which like you would never have expected at the start of this campaign with like the jacket that says like fuck off or whatever.
Yeah, just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm loving to see it. Taliesin is, they all are, but Taliesin in particular is showcasing here
Yeah.
just how good he is at role play.
Yeah.
Um,
Doesn't it make you just want to be like, I hope they know how good they are? And you're like, of course they do. So anyway, stay tuned for next week where I tell you my next favorite character, I guess.
uh, a quick segue here is similarly to just like loving the complexity of characters. I had the same kind of thoughts about Chetney this episode, just because, and not that this was anything new, but at the start of the episode, I don't remember the exact context, but he was basically saying how he like doesn't think of it as a curse, what his lycanthropy, and I don't know. This is about to be a long-winded ramble, probably, but I just thought it was so interesting and cool of his character to be like, this old man who instead we know his coming off of this like traumatic, for lack of a better word, past, whatever is happening with what's his name?
The guy in Uthadern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something really like something messed up clearly, because like that scene with him and that shopkeeper where they were basically both ready to kill each other, like and we can maybe talk more about what we think's going on there, but point is, like, some super traumatic messed up stuff probably that he was running away from, and just living in the jungle by himself. He described just living off the land, hunting, trapping, um and then getting bit by this werewolf was like a new lease on life, this thing that most people consider to be a curse. Like, it was his redemption in a way. It let him kind of come back into society,
Hmm.
where normally that's what you know removes you from it. And so maybe
Yeah.
I'm reading too much into this, but I'm really fascinated by Travis's character, especially because of all that backstory stuff I just referenced, and I just like the nuance he's putting into this, like, wisecracking old man, but there's so much depth there that he's just like thinly showing from time to time.
Yeah, and I think it came from one of the people in the lycanthropy camp, to put it one way. Of there was even like a comment on, there was like a back and forth of like, oh, like you would even put people down, and he was like, well, yeah, the ones who are spreading the gift to those who aren't ready to accept it. And so there's kind of building on what Chetney said. It seems like there's a demographic of people that can recognize um, the perks, I guess, of having it. And then it's interesting how they see others as like not yet ready or not maybe ever ready. But see, yeah, he seems, because I like that you said that too, like kind of tying it to like kind of like this sort of living out his last days in the wild and finding a new lease on life. Because they even ask him too, like, would you ever want us? They either ask like, would you ever want it removed, or do you ever wish it hadn't happened? And he directly says, no, like, no, I wouldn't. I think he says, I like it.
Yeah.
So, which there was something else I was going to say about that with Chetney. Oh, we finally got also confirmation. Remember, there was back when we first, it was like around the storyline with Gurge, there was some confusion around the Gorginai and then this other faction that seemed to be hunting
Right.
werewolves. And we were like, wait, so is that the Gorginai? No, it's
Yeah.
someone else. Like, who is that? That seems like that's that first group that he was part of that he got kicked out of.
Yeah. I guess so. And so that's not the Gorginai then,
Right.
for your money.
Because he
Okay.
was
Yeah.
right, because he was right. I mean, I think both probably do that, but I remember us. I don't know if we
Yeah.
just misread it, but there was like a deliberate discussion where no, there's this other faction that will
Right.
hunt them down.
Was there a name that was ever out there that we just can't remember right now, or was there never a name and that was
I
part
don't
of the
think there
reason
was
we
ever a
couldn't
name.
remember?
Yeah, I don't think there was ever a name.
Okay, just to
So
map this out for anybody else that's wondering what we're talking about, or really just for myself, honestly. There's now three factions that Chetney is involved with. Whatever was going on in Uthadern is one faction, the master craftsman, if you will, that he got kicked out / left. Then there's potentially this first group of hunters that encountered him when he first got bitten,
right,
that he got kicked out,
right.
and now there's the Gorginai.
Yes, I think that's right.
Because it could be possible that group 1 and 2 might be the same. Because the story for both of those is that he got kicked out.
Right. But I thought he got kicked out of in Uthodurn because they were moving to like metal and like.
Yeah, that's what he said, but I don't believe that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That is what he said, though.
And they tried to like ship him off to Marquette to like. I don't know. Oh wait, I think you're right actually though, because he got shipped off to Marquette for like, to find like the master craftsman, but then we found out actually
Gurge.
He was actually finding Gurge. So yeah, maybe he was sent to find Gurge to get direction on how to control his urge. So yeah, maybe they were the same group. That might make sense.
I don't know. I'm leading to that they're not now because you said that. Which it's possible that they are. And kind of instead of just raw speculation here to bring this back to a point, even everything I just said about, him getting bit and getting the new lease on life, I'm still not convinced he's telling the truth, even though there were a bunch of insight checks rolled, which I think I don't remember off the top of my head if we were aware of the numbers, and if we were, then we know if he was telling the truth. So this might all be a moot point. But I'm still not convinced he could be telling the truth, because what if they are the same group, those groups 1 and 2, wouldn't that imply that there was some level of werewolf already happening then?
What do you mean?
Like, I wish I knew the person's name so I could be more concrete with who I was talking about. But like the Uthodurn thing.
Well, but isn't the guy that he hates? Is he directly connected to the group he got kicked out of?
Or see, that's what I'm not sure of.
I thought it was just another woodworker that he hated or something.
I think that is what it is as far as we've been told.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track when he says woodworking if he means like raging wolf killers or if he means like, because there's so many euphemisms for this that I'm just like, which is it? Maybe it was the alpha in the previous group is that person.
Yeah.
Because why did he get kicked out again?
We don't really know.
He got like slipped up, and then they asked him, like, he talked about the pecking order, and they said, "Oh yeah, because you're a tattoo." And he said, "Well, it says respect the alpha, recognize the alpha." And it was kind of always this, joke on Chetney stroking his own ego, but maybe it's a mark, maybe it's a brand or something that he has to wear.
I am interested if there's more to that than just what he said, recognize the alpha. But I did like that little moment in this episode where he was like, it's not about like being subservient to the designated alpha. It's about recognizing the alpha in yourself. And so I liked that kind of like, because I don't know who he was talking to. Maybe it was Imogen, but he was kind of like using that to motivate them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but just to kind of to pinpoint one final thing with this. There is the person he hates, right? Which I wish I could remember their name. Right. There's that person, which could just be an isolated thing. The question I'm interested in that you kind of teased at, I wonder if that person he hates is connected to the group he got kicked out of, or if those are two separate things. I mean, I don't know. There's so many questions there. I could keep going.
I was trying to pull up his backstory to see if it was in here. Here we go. Altgar.
There we go. So yeah, was Altgar the person from the hunter group, for the lack of a better word, or was Altgar another part of his life before he ever got bit?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, and we may even know the answer to that.
At some point, he had a disagreement with Chetney, whom he mentored, over a change in direction. Chetney says that involves the materials they used. This disagreement escalated until Chetney messed up Altgar and was chased out of the city. So maybe getting kicked out has to do with Altgar.
Yeah, and clearly there was that other person that he ran into that also hated Altgar. So to me, it doesn't check out that they were started using metal, and to me, it seems like Altgar
Hmm.
was doing something like maybe they were assassins or something, And
Yeah.
anyway, I don't want to get too
Yeah.
lost in this, but
So I love the fight with the Chimera. That whole thing was really cool flavor.
yeah. And do you know who Ronan is? When Matt said Ronan
Is
picked
that
that,
Travis and Laura's kid?
yeah. So I
Yeah.
thought that was
Okay.
fun.
No, that's cool. And then love the message. Orem is so good. Liam is so good at like recognizing those sweet moments.
Hmm.
I regret that I didn't mention it in the recap, but when he pulls up the sending stone, hey, Eos bound, found them, their killers, bigger than we thought. Real rough, Dorian. Esteros is dead. Glad you're not here. Wish you were anyway. I didn't watch EXU season 2, so I don't know how that one shot or two shot
Oh, Kymel.
ended. Yeah, Kymel. I don't know how it ended, so I don't know where Dorian is supposed to be right now.
Yeah,
But
we should do an episode on that during like an off week or something.
yeah, I need to watch it still. So, but
Um,
yeah, that was really sweet though.
I love that too, and I'm wondering. Clearly, we're going to get a voice message response from Robbie. Matt said as much. Um, but I'm wondering if maybe if we are leading up to a Robbie appearance. Not necessarily soon, TM, but like I don't know. I think Liam slash Orem is just doing that because it's true to his character, and he's creating those
Yeah,
little moments. I don't think Liam's doing that to prepare for a Robbie appearance, but I could still
yeah.
just see that. Not
Well,
necessarily for the solstice, but I could see Robbie maybe coming back sooner
yeah. I
rather than
mean,
later.
for those of you who didn't watch EXU, I mean, they're best friends. They spent, a year together almost. So it does make sense for him to be reaching out to Dorian. But it does coincidentally keep the character fresh in the audience minds.
Yeah.
And also the party dynamic felt really good with Dorian. So I'd be open to him coming back as well. It's been great since then, but still, I really enjoyed it. Uh, Also, we didn't mention how the Court of the Lambent Path had struck a deal with the Gorginai to
Right.
like get jobs like in exchange for protection. We mentioned this last episode too. I love how like this intro to the whole campaign of this apex war between the Stratus Throne and the Court of the Lambent Path, how these things have kind of come back up again. Interestingly enough, we never got much traction with what was the evil organization in Drusar,
Oh,
the
Ivory Syndicate.
Ivory. Yeah, yeah, that was interesting. Uh, but yeah, Court of Lament Path might get some details there. Maybe like why the Apex War happened, and then I guess currently they're in the Gorginai
Barnock, I think.
Barnock.
Which yeah, it's
Um,
interesting that the Gorgini have this relationship with the Court of the Lambent Path, which kind of nicely puts them. And it's way more complicated than this. But if Odahan, who fought with the Stratus Throne, is one side, we got the Stratus Throne. Now we have the Gorgini that might join with Bell's Hells in the fight against Odahan. If those ally lines still run through that same path, it's just some
right. I want
potential
to.
there that they might be on the same side in the grand scheme of things.
Do we know that Odahan fought for the Stratus Throne side?
Yeah, because that's
Okay.
she became the Legend of the Peaks because of the where the Stratus Throne is. I can't remember the name of the mountain peaks off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but it's because of the Coven Peaks. I want to say maybe.
Yes, you are correct. In the Talland Highlands, which is where Imogen's from.
Right.
So
So yeah, I think I think that war has a lot to do with everything that's going on. Maybe not directly, but I think that none of this is a coincidence. That was the set piece to open the campaign with, and now we are getting all these entities that were involved on either side.
mhm,
I think there's more to uncover with all of that.
for sure. It's interesting also that the Gorgini are connected to the Wild Mother.
Yeah,
So I don't know where that's going to go, but it's just an interesting detail for me.
agreed.
And the spirit I think you mentioned, is a champion of the Wild Mother.
Right.
That was a great detail also. Which
Yeah.
begs the question: is lycanthropy, is it a gift of the Wild Mother?
That's interesting.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see, because they referred to Sayadon, or I hope I'm not butchering that. Sayadon is the spirit or whatever. They kept referring to it. When it first was introduced, I thought it was maybe like their god, but then we found out, like you said, that she's a champion of the Wild Mother. So is this like an actual entity that is going to be like addressable, or because at first when they talked about like this ritual and stuff, I just imagined it was like that, a ritual that they do, but the way they kept talking about it made it seem like, yeah, if Sayadon's cool with y'all, you can be there too. Like, as if there was gonna be like this literal entity that they like address and interact with.
Right.
Which,
well, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it would be the party's first interaction with deity, with a deity so far. Which I don't know if campaign 2, if there was much interactions there, but I know campaign 1 there was a handful. So I don't know, and it could be interesting also if this interaction with this champion of the F.C.G solstice, if it's less about, hey Chetney, you're cool, man, and more of like, hey, I'm glad you're here. I need to tell you about something that's coming with the Apogee solstice. Like, I don't know, like maybe it's like, oh, good, you're here. Like,
yeah,
you need to go do this or something.
yeah. I mean, I literally don't know what to expect. But I did think it was interesting that what was said about this whole ritual is that like you will either get rid of the itch or you'll die, essentially. So like, one, that's got me wondering what the heck is undertaken here, and also the fact that Bell's Hell, the rest of Bell's Hells, may or may not also be
right
judged. Like, they don't have lycanthropy, so like, what's in it for them? But if he is successful, is he just going to be completely like, is it boom, it's done? Like, Chetney's never going to have to lose himself again?
I think it'll be like maybe the wisdom saving throw will be assuaged somewhat. I mean, it's already, he already has to roll only a 6 or higher, but maybe there's some kind of perk or something. Like Imogen got her feet with the storm, and maybe there'll be some kind of like character detail he'll get. But I think they've made it clear that like this takes a lifetime to hone and develop.
True.
So I love this question of like, ooh, we really can't spend weeks here, but they just missed the solstice entirely. There was somewhere we needed to be.
That's probably not important.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I mean, he could die. I mean, that'd be crazy if that's how this ended up.
Didn't he say that he's surprised Chetney's made it this long or something?
I think so, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I could. Beats me.
And then it's all Travis's plan. He has another character ready to go.
Even older.
Yeah.
He's in a wheelchair and they have to just push him around. He's senile. It's no longer funny. It's just awkward.
Travis, why are you doing this?
Yeah. He's playing a much older racist character. It's really not on brand for us. Anyway, so all right. Well, let us know in the comments what you guys thought of the episode, but also all these things we talked about a lot today. Yeah. Y'all's best guesses, thoughts, reactions. We want to hear about it. And the worst part, we got to wait a few more weeks before we find out what happens next.
I know. Yeah, we got a bit of a wait, but like we did mention earlier, we are going to be covering the Mighty Nine 2-shot. And I guess I don't know, but I imagine a lot of you probably haven't seen campaign 2. So, I don't know.
I have not.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously Blake hasn't either. So I don't know if those of you that haven't seen campaign 2 are going to watch it or not. But if you are, know that Blake's going to be right there with you. And so we'll have both perspectives when we dive into that discussion.
The recap's basically like me being like, okay, so like, wait, who is that person again? And what did they? And you're like, all right, Blake, we've been through this. So anyway, I'm sure there'll be like some amazing moment that like ties in a detail that like goes way over my head. And we're just like, just great. Just glad to be here. Yeah. So anyway. All right. Well, let's do a little thumbnail action.
Yeah. I feel like werewolf, but I don't really know
Yeah, we could do a little.
what that looks like.
I don't know. It feels a little He-Man esque of like, you're assuming your form or something, or it beats me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just whatever your mind takes you to for that. We'll just go with that. You're
Okay.
transforming.
Okay, I got it. Wait, no, that feels like I'm like, hang on. Let me start over. All right, keep going. All right, we got it.
Nice.
It's like that time you did the thumbnail, and I was like, you might want to do that again. I looked at myself, and I was like, that's not really what I'm going for. So, all right, well, guys, thanks for checking us out. Remember, we're on pretty much. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on anywhere you listen to podcasts, and also on Twitter. Are we blue checkmark verified?
We are not blue checkmark verified, unfortunately.
So theoretically, any of you could be the Pixelists. So
that's right.
We'll know we've made it when people start copying us. I make that joke and then, no one did. So anyway. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you later.
Bye, y'all.